Welcome to the Brave New Wealth podcast, where we discuss wealth from a physical, mental, social, and financial perspective. I'm your host, Julienna. Bienvenue à tout le monde. Bienvenido a todos. Herzlich willkommen. Everyone is welcome here. This podcast is sponsored by Engineer Tax Services, a subsidiary of Engineer Tax Advisory. And our goal is to empower CPAs, business owners, real estate investors with education, proven strategies, and innovative strategies and expertise to help you unearth some of those tax strategies that are often overlooked. Today, I am very, very excited to have with me Brian Payne. Brian Payne is president and CFO. I don't want to assign you a role that you don't have. So Brian helps reimagine how tax, finance, and strategy can serve people, not just profit. His passion is building ecosystem of trust, innovation, and human flourishing, cultivating companies and communities with intentional love, respect, and purpose. Whether it's tax strategies, business building, or spiritual vision, his work is about creating rooted systems and bridges of belonging, structures where both people and organizations can thrive. Brian, thank you so much for being willing and able to come on the Brave New Wealth podcast today. I'm really honored. We haven't met very long ago, but I have been very, very impressed with your presence, the way that you support our team and the whole company by always injecting positivity, especially in those most stressful times. And so, welcome. What I want to ask you is, if you were in an elevator and had like 30 seconds to introduce yourself, how would you introduce yourself?
Oh, well, first, thank you. And it's an honor to be here. And you're right. We haven't known each other that long, but it's actually kind of wild, the depth at which I already feel like we've been able to connect and get to know one another. And it was so wonderful seeing you in Dallas just the other week at our sales retreat. And it's an honor to be on here. And I look forward to talking with you and diving into some really, hopefully, provocative and fun topics that I hope to invite people to just open their minds to how they think about business. And, we're going to be using art as our analogy for it. So it should be really fun. Elevator pitch on me is, it's funny. Sometimes I lead with this. I call myself, I'm a well-intended weirdo. I love people. I see the beauty in humanity, and I don't always understand, but I always accept. And then I want to find how we grow and flourish together. My elevator pitch would be, I started in more of a corporate career, and I was with Bank of America in their corporate investment, corporate treasury. I did take the entrepreneurial plunge and found some success. I found that I was not rooted for success, and I experienced some painful failure as well. And then through that journey, I got into the venture capital space more. And really what I saw was, it just seemed like our systems and the way that we work do not, in my opinion, do not keep the main thing. And so I started developing new ways to highlight the pragmatism of love. And through that, I was able to work with Dikembe Mutombo, who did unfortunately pass away from a brain tumor last year. And during that time, the brain tumor, I was able to work with an MMA league and sports entertainment firm, which Julio invested in. And that's how I was introduced to Julio. And then last February, when the CFO position came available, I joined as the CFO. And in the middle of last year, I was moved to the president and CFO. And it's a pure blessing to be part of this team and to work with people like you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all this. I appreciate you opening up right at the get-go. And yes, it was wonderful seeing each other face to face, spending some time, quality time when the team came to Dallas. I really, really appreciate that. I think it makes such a huge difference to feel each other's energy. And we're going to dive into business is art and all the beautiful things that we've discussed a little bit together. But before we go there, I always take this opportunity to get to know, especially the people I work with on a different level. So could you share with us maybe something that you've done lately that is outside of your comfort zone? And I know you live outside of your comfort zone, but maybe something that you hadn't seen yourself do, or pick up a new hobby that you thought about doing, or a passion that just kind of reemerged. Anything. I mean, it can be from the social, physical, financial, or, mental perspective. You pick.
Okay, yeah, and you are right. I do live outside my comfort zone. That's kind of my normal. But a recent stretch moment was stepping in as the interim COO during tax season for ETS. I was already serving as president and CFO, and so that definitely pushed me and challenged me in new ways. But it also helped me build deeper relationships with our operations leaders and to really understand the heartbeat of the company more intimately in that space. And now we've welcomed Jason Dance as COO, and I'm getting to collaborate with him. And I feel far more equipped to collaborate and support Jason because I lived that rhythm firsthand for a couple of months.
Wonderful. Yeah, that would be definitely challenging to step in the heat of the season. And we all feel it. And I'm sure, you felt it too. We were all...
I did. You got it done, though.
We did. And we did it well as well. And I think it's, really due to the support we give to each other. That is wonderful. So another question I want to ask you is, what are some of the things you do to balance with the stress of work and finding yourself? And I know that balance is kind of a, overdone work. There's no balance. You put the energy where it's needed at the time it's needed. But what are something that give you back energy and sources of strength, when you need that?
Yeah, and I assure you, I'm not trying to wordsmith every question here, but one thing I just want to mention is I don't really pursue balance. I see life as more of a beautiful spiral than a scale. Mm-hmm. And so for me, everything from work, rest, relationships, all of it moves in a rhythm, not symmetry. Mm-hmm. And so instead of trying to hold things still or in balance, I try to feel which way things are spiraling and spinning and the energy of it. And then I align my energy and my time and my relationships to move with that rhythm. And in life, in my experience at least, it's seasonal. So I have to keep a good pulse on it. A couple of things on the rest side because that is probably the most challenging area for me to find the time is really around breathing and meditation. Mm-hmm. Those are critical for me. And then cold showers and an ice plunge when I can. Mm-hmm. Those are some of the things I do with intentionality to be able to kind of get that rejuvenation in a pretty expeditious way. But, in my opinion, and it's just me, but a scale, when I was approaching my life as a scale, it demanded almost kind of a stopping or a rigidity, and a spiral invites more movement. And so I kind of mentally absorb it that way, if that makes sense.
Yes, no, and I've heard the benefits. I've done the cold ice bath after running a marathon, but I haven't. I did switch to like colder showers because there is something to it, but I'm not like in the habit of doing that yet. But I've heard so many good things about it, just even from a youthful perspective, energy, all the things resetting. So yeah, I feel like I'm inching to like.
We're getting, yeah. Heidi does I think she does the ice baths in the morning.
Yes.
And if you want, this is how I dip my toe in the cold shower. I would take it I actually prefer a hot shower, but for 10 seconds, I'll just turn the temperature as low as I can. I'll just stand there and just grin and bear it. Uh-huh. And then I went up to 15 and I worked my way up. And, you can do it, but yeah, there is a little bit of that.
Yeah. And that's where it's at. But I also know if I want to get out real quick out of the shower, I put it, as cold as I can. And I know the shower is going to be very quick. Yes. No, that's great. And you do a lot of things. You help a lot of people, a big organization. And so it's important to find that time for yourself and rejuvenate. So I'm glad you have these tools. So I was very excited and intrigued, when I read the notes a little bit about your perspective of business, which is very different, very innovative, and brings in a lot of creativity. I've heard you talk about co-creation a lot since we've known each other, and I feel like it's something that's very important to you and deeply rooted. And so I want to delve into that a little bit more, and how you see a business, and what made you pull it into the art. Tell me more about this. What that stems from.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I don't like using this word, but if I had to really be just transparent, it was actually a little twinge of jealousy. My family is very artistic and musically inclined, and I kid you not, my grandparents, my mom, my dad, all my family, they can play instruments, they can sing, they can paint, they can draw. Now, I had a good ear, and I tried all of these things, but I truly, I did not have the skill set for it. I could maybe push my way through and be decent at something, but they could just pick something up and just strum and go. And so I was like, what in the world? Why didn't I get this artistic gene that my whole family has? And it was during that time when I mentioned the entrepreneurial phase and then getting into the venture capital phase. That's when I started to first realize that, oh, my canvas is just different. My art form is co-creation. I call it co-creation because it's a beautiful process. It's very intimate, actually, if you think about it, because you're literally taking an idea, and oftentimes, and actually in most of my career, it's not even my idea. Somebody has an idea, and it's ruminating in there, and sometimes it's been like just a drawing on a napkin, if that, right? And my role is to connect with you enough to where I can see your vision, and then I start to matriculate it forward, and then we have vision alignment. And then eventually you grow that into a business. And one of the first companies I got to do this with is a company called True Turn. And that was a classic drawing on a napkin. Carl was formerly the LA Clippers strength and conditioning coach. And he was telling me about this concept that he had, and he drew it. And our first model was just like metal welded. We called it the dinosaur. And now it's a PGA certified product. And that was when the light bulb went off, when I was like, wow, we're now at the Orlando PGA golf convention, showing people how to use a true turn. The long ball hitters really loved it, by the way, because it's almost like a push up for your back. And those guys were massive, and they were just going nuts with it. And that's when it hit me. I was like, wow, we just took an idea that had no business plan, nothing. It didn't even have a product design yet. And now we're a PGA certified product. And that was probably really the first time it clicked with me that business is co-creation and co-creation is art, because you're taking ideas and you're bringing them to life. And then once they're living, you get to grow them. And now it's gotten even bigger than you ever imagined. He's getting into he's not just sports anymore. He's getting into the health side as well now. And it's just beautiful when you can take somebody's idea and actualize it. And so that was probably the first time I got to experience it. And that's when it really clicked, as we just co-created something together. And to me, that's art.
Yes, that's a beautiful perspective. So I want to read something that you put in your note that I want to dig a little bit more into. You says, everyone sees the fruit, revenue, product, market share, but I'm obsessed with the root, because if you don't tend the root, the bloom won't last. Business isn't just a system, it's a living organism. It's art. And leadership is how you conduct the symphony beneath the surface. And that sounded like poetry to me. The way you turned it, and you just pull something that's usually seen as cold to this moving organism. So tell me more about that. You're obsessed with the roots. Why is that?
I think it's oftentimes because first, thank you. I'm glad that resonated. And the reason I focus so much on the root is because I think oftentimes that's the most overlooked we tend to live in a culture, and I'm not saying this on any moral pedestal or high ground, but we live in a culture that focuses so much on the tree, and actually, I don't even know if we focus on the tree as much as the crown. The crown of the tree is the leaves and the sticks and the beautiful part that you tend to see when you're driving by and you take notice. Oftentimes, and I think it's one of those things where it's like hidden in plain sight. It's obvious, but it's not overt. But while a tree is growing up, its roots are growing deeper. And to me, the reason I focus there is one, because it's overlooked, but then also two, in my experience, the reason I believe that I've failed with my early success is because I had focused so much on my tree and the crown of the tree, notably. You know, look at me, look at all the stuff I'm doing over here, right? My roots were not ready for it. And so then the success came and I blossomed and I got a lot bigger. And I'm like, whoa, look at all my leaves, right? My crown got bigger, but my roots didn't deepen with it. And I fell over, right? And I think that's true for individuals, and I think it's true for companies as well. And so it's not that I say that in a way to trivialize the tree or the crown of the tree, but it's to redirect the focus, because it just seems like most people are not putting enough emphasis in their roots. And that's why I see leadership as really conducting a symphony. I see every team member as an instrument, every department's an instrument. And my role is really hopefully just to conduct it so it's a harmonious symphony. And I focus first on the taproot. That's the main root in the root system. And then there's different layers and different roots that spawn from there. But the taproot is critical, because everything else gathers its nutrients from that taproot. And so you need to have a good taproot, a good source, so that when you're growing, not only up, but deep, you're growing holistically healthy. And that's always my goal. And so, in my opinion, you know, how I kind of apply that is, before execution, I do focus on the energy. And before putting in all of the structure, I make sure that we have the story. And the story is not just a story, it's the vision, right? I had to catch Carl's vision for the True Turn, and then we were able to grow it together. And so when you take that approach, you guide not just processes, but people. It's a rhythm. It's an energy.
Yes, that is a lot. How do you again, translate this and pull people into seeing what you see and bringing people together? Like, what is that root? And how do you bring people to nourish it? Because you can't do that alone.
Wonderful question. So for me, what I do is I first have to connect with my teammates. And that is more challenging in remote settings, which is ETS. And so with ETS, I flew around the country, and I met with every leader that I'm working with, really just to get that human connection first and get that energy going. I call it thrumming. I want to be vibrating with you and resonant, right? And so team resonance and cohesion is kind of where I start. Trust is built in that phase generally. Then I cast the vision and then a values alignment. And last year we came together as a leadership team in December, and for ETS, TGP, and IPA, we co-created a mission statement, and all three firms use the same mission statement. Now, our how is different, obviously, but we have the same mission and we have the same values. And that was very intentional, because we're trying to catalyze unity, and then it brings more alignment. And so now we all have the vision and the values of how we move forward. The third phase, then, I bring in that emotional and creative energy. This part is always the most toe-tappy. There's a lot of dancing here because, like I said, humans are beautiful, and emotions are beautiful, but they're also a little wild and volatile. And creative energy, it shows itself in many different forms, and every person has a different creative energy in the way that they even express it. And so that's why I start with the resonance first. So then when they come to me with their creative ideas, I'm able to interpret and catch the vision exponentially better than if it was only during like a Zoom meeting. Good luck, right? Me personally, that just doesn't work for me. And so I really try to stoke that emotional and creative energy. And then the fourth, what I do then is it's clarity of contribution. And that tends to be more where the structure and the roles, and that's where you start kind of putting, a lot of people say put the meat on the bone. That clarity of contribution comes in, and that's where I start to structure it. It's like, okay, we have all these different creative ideas. I see it almost like a puzzle right now. We have our different leaders are coming with new opportunities, new ideas, new ways of collaborating together. How do we put it together cohesively? Not only so it is a cohesive puzzle, but then also one that fosters collaboration and integration. I focus on integration a lot. And that's where inspiration comes from, in my opinion. And when you have a team of people and a company inspired and collaborating, it multiplies. And the last thing I would just interject there are for the contribution, focus on joy. I call it watering joy because in my experience, joy multiplies clarity. And so that's how I kind of bring that all together. And what at the end of that process, hopefully what you've developed, and it's never perfect, right? I used to wait till perfection, and that sometimes that stifled the growth, excuse me. And so what I learned was you grow, and then you let the growth of what you're blooming kind of almost overtake any of the things that still need to be polished off. It outgrows it basically. And that's why I focus on the roots, because to me, the roots are where the unseen becomes the inevitable. And you just create a new momentum and you get to ride that wave that you've created. And then you stay intentional about maintaining it. You have to steward it. But that early phase is where you create that momentum and you ride that. And then as your tree or plant, whatever fruit you're growing, as it starts to grow and produce, you have a healthy root system that can sustain the growth and also the storms that come.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I absolutely love the imagery because it helps putting the pieces together. And so talking about the tree, the roots, the fruits, and how it all, yes, you're basically pulling from nature and putting this into a system that, is sometimes seen as a cold system, like a company, an enterprise. So I have 3 teenagers, so I have to say this, like you took the word vibing to the next level. Vibing, you know how they use that word all the time,
Yeah,
vibing.
yeah.
You're like dissected it and took it to the next level. That's beautiful. Yeah, it is needed. And some of the things that you bring are actually soft skills. And I am actually grateful that soft skills are being elevated, as before was like, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about emotion. You boldly put, even in your description, you use the word love, respect, and purpose. And those are very strong words that are purpose, respect. Yes, love is not always associated with, it's like this thing that we're going to leave it for outside, for church, for relationship. But yes, I believe in that. I believe in that, loving what you do, loving the people around you. The respect is, you said something during our retreat that basically that it's kind of the glue that holds it. Like you have to have it. Otherwise, nothing comes out if you don't have those basic things. And so to me, it's also the foundation.
I think I used the term connective tissue.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. Yes. Yeah.
It will come back because I was like,
Yeah.
yes. And so if you don't have it, nothing works. And I think it was about respect. Like you were talking about the importance of being respectful, no matter what the situation. And because conflict will arise, right? We can't avoid it. And it's how we're going to deal with it, how we're going to deal with the conflict, how we're going to show ourselves when that heat is on. And even though I feel like we all know it, being reminded and constantly reminded is important.
Absolutely. And there's a lot I could unpack there, but one thing that just resonated is on the conflict side. I don't see conflict as something to even avoid. Healthy conflict is good. And that's why I focus so much on the love. And that's why I think the roots need to be strong. And just for a point of clarity, when I do talk about love, on Valentine's Day, actually, I even sent an email. The love that I'm talking about is phileo love, that building love, that co-creating love, family, brotherhood, kind of a citizens of humanity love, not the romantic love. And that's where sometimes people kind of give me some odd looks when I talk about love in the workplace. I'm sure HR sometimes is, getting wide-eyed at me, like, what is he talking about, right? But before, let me just put that, every great product, system, or strategy that you grow, just my personal opinion is, I need it to start with aligned people aligning in breath before blueprint. And so what does that mean to align in breath? I'm not just designing roles, I'm designing resonance, and I'm ensuring people feel seen, safe, and together. And that's where that respect, that connective tissue is so pivotal. Before you ever have your first diagram, chart, or anything like that, you want to have people that know that they're in a safe space, they're seen and they're heard, and they have a voice. And then when you do grow and you continue to advance, conflict will arise. And that's good, because that means if everybody's just all thinking and saying the same thing, you're getting one lens. I like having different lenses and different perspectives and different ideas. And conflict to me is a way to refine our ideas and be better. And then it's also a way to kind of create those classic 1 + 1 = 5 scenarios. You take two different ideas and you put them together in a harmonious way, and now it's exponentially better than just having the one. But in my experience, if you dive into those kinds of conversations and you engage in that conflict, but you haven't come together around love or whatever your company's, values and mission are, you're probably going to have a toxic conversation, because a brilliant strategy built on shallow roots will collapse when the storms come. And the roots make sure that you're prepared for those storms and for those conflicts. And sometimes conflicts aren't even internal. You have external as well, and you have companies and competitors coming after you, macro shifts that impact you. You never know what you're going to have to weather. And that's why I always want to make sure that we have a strong foundation so we can weather it better together.
Well, thank you for that. And I have seen this in practice. It's not just wisdom shared and theoretical. I have seen it because just our communication, feeling very free to say, hey, I think this could change, and the way you received it, because you can feel the energy. People sometimes pretend that they like to receive feedback, and, they take constructive criticism well, but it's not truly well received and it's not truly considered. But I have felt personally that I could say, this is how I feel about this. This is, what I think could be better. And not to say that it will be done, implemented, but just to feel free enough to say that without, I think in a lot of organizations, people are not comfortable speaking their mind and not comfortable saying how they see things from their perspective. So I'm glad that I can actually say, yeah, we've seen this in practice. I can sense a shift. I haven't been at ETS for very long, but there's definitely an uptick and a shift of positivity. And I I don't want to say it's all you, but because it takes a lot of people, but I'm sure you have something to do with it for sure.
Well, thank you. That warms my heart to hear that. And my goal is always to create conditions where visions can emerge from a shared soil of our team. And one thing that I have to remind myself and others repeatedly is I have to learn to accept without understanding. Whenever earlier in my career, I always wanted to understand before I would even accept it or even let it marinate in my mind, so to say. And that limited me to really my own personal view. Once I became a little more curious and I embraced the wonder of things, I accept it and then I chew on it. And it's so funny. Sometimes I still don't end up completely understanding what they were saying or where they're coming from. But if I just glean a couple of golden nuggets out of that, and then we put them together with some other people's thoughts and ideas, and you put it all together, it's so fun for me to come back to the team and say, hey, these were the golden nuggets I got from you, and here's your nuggets. And then we put them all together, and now look what we have. And it's so fun because oftentimes jaws drop because first they're shocked that you even heard them. They're like, wow, you actually were listening, right? And then to be able to take something that they gave you and then integrate it with other people's thoughts and ideas to produce something even more than they anticipated or even envisioned in their own mind. That to me, there's almost no greater joy. It's so fun. And then they get to be part of it. And now the enthusiasm they have when they dive into actualizing it and making it real is far greater. Because now instead of me just saying, hey, you do this because I told you to, now they're doing it because this is part of my vision. This was part of my dream. Like I had this in my mind for years and now I get to do it. And inspired people, that's where the beauty really shines.
I love that. I love that. And I can't help but make a comparison with what you just said. It's really powerful, like accepting without understanding sometimes. And it just reminds me also, as a parent, you do that a lot. Like there's a lot of things your kids are going to do that you don't fully understand, but you do have to accept them and accept that they have their own vision for whatever it is. And eventually it unfolds. And I could feel those words in, even outside of the workplace. It's a hard thing to do, but when you do, magic can come out of it. So that's awesome. So we're getting close to the end here, but I would like to know personally, who or what have been some of your greatest inspiration, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a book that changed you. What can you share with us in that regard?
I'll use a quote. This one changed my life. It's Viktor Frankl. When he said, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And for me, first, I had to create the space. I am emotional by nature, and I was reactionary. And so I would react and not respond. And so first I had to just even make room. Then once I made room, I started taking inventory of what I was growing in that space. And admittedly, Julienna, I didn't love what I was growing in that space. And that challenged me deeply. And that's when I became more intentional with it. And that's actually kind of where a lot of these garden principles and the nomenclature I use spawned, because I just started really focusing on growing in that space. And what am I growing? And once I did that, everything changed. I think to me, that space is where true leadership lives. Whether it's a business decision, a relationship like you were talking about with your kids, things of that nature, even your own thoughts, my internal monologue, my own conversation. That pause, that space, that's where we plant our future. And I always strive to be very intentional with that space to make sure I'm growing the fruit that I want.
That's so wonderful. So I have to say, Viktor Frankl is one of my very favorite authors, of course. I mean, I know many people, but just pulled me out of some really dark times. And still to this day, it's who and what I go to when I'm at the lowest, and it started, I think I read it the first time when I was 21, and, I'm double that now. But it has been such a source of strength. So thank you for quoting him. And interestingly enough, I heard that very quote yesterday. I was listening to a podcast, and that was the guest's favorite quote, the one that you just shared. So, something's going on. Yes. I'll have to tell you more later, but synergy.
For sure. That's awesome.
Yep. No, I love it. Well, we have to end here, but I do want to challenge you or commit you to come back and have more of these wonderful conversations. I would love to have you again on the podcast. I know that we have you, Engineer Tax Services, but if people want to find you or connect with you, do you want to connect with people, or you're kind of in a bubble right now? Because sometimes I have...
So
whatever you want.
So admittedly, going back to that space, I did kind of fade social media and whatnot for a while. Mm-hmm. I am re-engaging LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And so I will be, I'll send you my LinkedIn.
Okay.
and I would love for people to connect on me there, or connect with me there, excuse me.
Yes.
But that's something I'm having to resurrect.
Yes, no, and because of course I did, try to find you as soon as I joined, and I'm like, well, I guess he's not there now, but I will be posting this on LinkedIn, so you will want to come and see and maybe interact a little bit. But I don't know, I'm feeling like maybe a book in the future, or is that thought ever crossed your mind?
You know what? It's funny, Julienna. I don't know where things go from here. I actually. Full transparency, I have thousands of pages that I've been writing. Mm-hmm. I'm an avid writer. I love it. And it's interesting that you mentioned that because, times always change. But when I first started kind of going down this journey and I would mention it and talk like this, most people kind of just looked at me like I had a third eye. And so I kind of started to, honestly, you really got me here, but I started to almost put a dim on it. But now it seems like maybe I just needed to grow a little more and be better prepared. I'm not sure, but it does seem like it's resonating now with people. Mm-hmm. And so as that continues, I would love to come back for the podcast. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. And then maybe a book.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And I'm planting a seed because in my mind, I think, and it doesn't have to be now. I know you're very busy, but a book about business as a co-creating art, I think you would do a really good job.
All right. Well, hey, maybe we even co-author.
Hey, maybe. Yes, we'll talk more about books. That's something on my. Well, thank you so much, Brian. This was a pure joy to have you, and very enlightening. I'm excited to share this with the world and hopefully inspire a lot of leaders out there who need different perspective on how to help their team come together. I think you gave a lot of really incredible tools that people out there will be able to use. So thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Brave New Wealth podcast. I am grateful that Brian Payne, CFO at Engineer Tax Services, was able to join me to have this insightful conversation. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments, leave a like, share with someone you think could benefit from it. And I hope to see you in the next episode. À bientôt!